Alors, il a répondu ou pas?
Non, pas encore.
Même pas.
Enfin, en ce qui me concerne, je peux lui répondre très tard. Hein,
Je tente l'envoi parallèle. On fait une compète.
On va voir.
Welcome everyone. We will start a little later, I think, in 2 minutes. Bo ja nie chciałabym, żeby osoby, które widzę, że wchodzą, przeszkadzały Pani w wykładzie. So because I see that people are still coming, I prefer the Constance start a bit later, like a minute later or 2 minutes later, because on other way they will start in the lecture, okay? So just let them come in. That it works. Good evening, everybody. I would like to express my great I don't know. I'm really very happy that we can host Constance Guisset, and then we are the first institution she visits in Poland during her first experience with our country, and she will meet such international community, because we host at the moment also international group of teachers and students who participate in the International Week. First, I would like to ask all of you to turn off your mobiles, please. Thank you. And next, I would like to say that I am deeply thankful for the French Embassy and the French Institute and the representatives whom we host here, and that they support this visit. And I am also very thankful for the authority of our school and our rector, who accepted this idea to invite Constance Guisset with the lecture to our school. The moderator of today evening will be Mateusz Król, who is our alumni and who is an assistant of the visit of Constance Guisset. So Mateusz.
Hello everyone and welcome to the lecture. I have a great honor to welcome Constance Guisset in our school. Constance is a French multidisciplinary designer. She creates interior design, set design, furnitures, illustrations, exhibitions. One of them was, for example, Axio in Museum of Decorative Arts in Paris, which was very great exhibition, really appreciating the entire France, I think, and I think that Constance deserves a little bit of applause. I will let her start.
Thank you. So, welcome everybody. Thank you, Eva, for inviting me. Thank you for being so persuasive. I think nobody can say no to you. So, when you came to meet me in my studio and invited me afterwards, I understood that I had no escape. I mean, it was impossible not to come here. So, thank you for your energy. And thank you, Mateusz, for this beautiful day we had visiting Warsaw today, and it's fantastic. I think you're very lucky to live in this city. I hope also you will have the opportunity to visit my city, Paris, because it's very different, but also you feel that the spirit is there. It's here, but it's also there, and it's an opportunity incredible for me to be here to see that and to share my work. So I suggest that the lights be turned off, if it's possible. And I'm going to introduce you to my work. So, as you know, maybe I'm a designer. So, my name is Constance Guisset. I'm a designer. Maybe I've been practicing for now 12, 15 years, because I began design very late. I began with a school of management, and I worked in Japan. Then I made a school of politics, and then I worked also in administration, etc. And then one day I understood, in fact, very fast, when I began to work, I understood that I would not stay in the office every day, and that I had to go back to creation, that I was doing from the beginning, because every night I was doing things with my hands. And then I went back to design studies, and then when I got the diploma, I began my studio. So here's a photo of my studio that I'm lucky to have today, and Eva could visit it. So what is it about having a studio today in France? So this studio is about 10 people, and we try to work very hard together, at the same time on modeling, trying to understand objects with volumes. I was asked to make a presentation for students, so maybe you'll see that we work a lot with models. But also it's about working with the computer, because we're working on objects, but also interiors, architecture, installations, and sometimes publications, set design. I think that's really the particularity of this studio, is that it's multidisciplinaire. Difficult to say for a French person. I know how to say it in French, multidisciplinaire, but in English it's more difficult. Anyway, and I think this is linked to what I like. I like surprise, I like people, and when I decide to make a project, it's because I meet the right project, the right people. So my first design object is this one. It's an object is the most well-known in France, and I always begin with that, because so many times people tell me, oh, we are fed up with this lamp, we've seen it so many times. But in fact, it's like, when you're a singer, and then you have one good song in the beginning, and everybody says, no, you have this good song, so it must be so difficult, and you must be scared to do something else. I confess I'm not scared at all. I think I'm lucky to have this object. I designed it when I was at school. I never drew it, so I only made it with a model, just to understand for you, the students, to understand that there are so many ways to design. Can be drawing on a picture, in a space, but it can be also trying things with your hands. Sometimes it's small models, sometimes it's big models. This one, I made it scale 1 immediately. So the scale 1 was smaller, but then in the end, I make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it became a very big lamp, and it was very difficult to find an editor for it, because everybody told me, it's not very commercial, it's not going to sell because it's too big. And then it's, of course, the hit, it's the bestseller in France. So also to tell you that you never should give up when you're sure of your design. So very simple object that I did really when I was at school on the subject that was building your own shelter yourself. So I made my own shelter, which was a lamp, and this is it. Another object that is, I think, interesting to also express my feelings about the work, because I'm very much interested in talking to to the bodies, but also talking to the spirits. So I'm trying to create objects that bring something to your mind and that make you dream a little bit. And this one was a mirror that in the beginning I thought I would try to design changing in itself, meaning that the pattern would change, but it was impossible with the industry. And so I made a design, I made a pattern that made you feel that it was moving. So it's not moving, but you have the feeling it's moving. And when you have this clue about my work, in looking at the first object, Vertigo, the big lamp, but also this one, you feel that movement is very close, is very present in my work. This is a more recent object, and I can see that I have, we have the representative of Pierre here in the in the space. So it's an image of an exhibition that I made 2 years ago, and this is a sofa. It's very simple, and just it was a solution for all the spaces that I was dealing with, because you never find the right size of sofa, you never find the right combination. I'm always asked when I do a space to make a modular space that you can change and put some chairs and then put the sofa, and this was the solution. So it can be two sides, it can be completely modular, so that was the answer. So it's kind of short portfolio, so because I was asked to speak only 40 minutes and to answer questions and to explain also the process that we will see at the end. So I just wanted to show you also something very industrial, because of course we have to work on that. It can be very manual from the beginning, but it becomes very industrial. So this is a perfume bottle that I did for Shiseido. So it took 3 years to finish the project. So design project is between 9 months, maybe it's the shortest, and maybe 5 years. So that's the longest I've done. Sometimes more. And this one was 3 years because there were 3 patterns on it. So you can see very easily the idea is to have strength with delicacy. And here you have the feeling that the shape that is on the top is going down into the bottle. And it's true, but it's not completely true because it's an illusion. So because we have to put inside this bottle something that is flat, because it has to be not flat, but that has to go a very small hole, and you have to be sure of the time it takes to put it inside. You have to be sure of the rotation of the stuff. So it's when they begin to sell those kind of objects, it's immediately 100,000 objects. So it has to be extremely industrial. So when I first showed this project, they said, all the engineers, they said, no, it's not possible, Constance, you're dreaming like all the designers. And I said, okay, let's try. And I found the solution, which was just having, it's an illusion so far that it's like a veil. So it's when you put it in, it's rolled, and when it's inside, it's unrolling. But there is a kind of movement inside in the structure, so you have the feeling it's in volume. So looks like it's in volume, but it's flat with a kind of wave. And once again, this is to show you some moments when you're in front of engineers, and they, especially when you're a woman, they tell you, no, it's not possible, small lady, get back home and make some embroidery and in your kitchen. And so you have to have these discussions, and you say, okay, no, let's find a solution. I'm not better than you, but I can try to have this conversation with you. And so we found a solution. I was quite proud, just with a small model, to find a solution that the engineers could take out after, because of course I didn't make the technical development afterwards. They had to find the right solutions in the end, but the first idea inside how to get it was on our side. Also, this is what is interesting in this project, because it's only a folding chair. And sometimes having a folding chair is really nothing. But it's a subject that I have from Dior. One day Dior came to me and said, okay, Constance, can you make, together with 20 other artists, a chair for us, inspired by our medallion chair with the oval part. And in those cases, you have two solutions. Either you make a sculpture because you're sure that it's in an exhibition and it's one shot, and then you need to make the biggest stuff, which is an option. And I like to make the biggest stuff very often. Or you think, okay, I'm a designer, so I need to go straight and to be sure of what I want to do, and I want to do a real chair. So I went to see Pierre and ask whether we could have we could work together with the Technik they had to make a folding chair. And Dior told me, you know, we are never going to make an edition of it. Sure, we're never going to do that. So in the contracts, it was meant not to be developed. And when they saw it in real, but it was I was sure they would do it inside myself, but don't tell anyone. And so when they saw it in real, they said, okay, let's go, we make it. And so now it's becoming an edition, or at least they are having several in their offices. And it was really cool because it's the moment when you fight and you know that from the beginning you're a small, you're just a designer trying to fight, but being very sure of what you want to do, but it's very humble in a sense because it's just a folding chair. And when you see everyone with a big sculpture, you think, okay, I'm less visible in that exhibition, but then in the end, you're the one that make space where people can sit, and that's really something that is important. So this is a more recent chair made for an Italian brand, just to show you the kind of objects that I like to design with lots of organic shapes, but tension at the same time, trying to find a balance between those two. Also for Zanota, this idea of having I like to make pictures also, and having this foot going through the seat. This is one of my first designs also because I had to work for a Turkish place, for the French Institute of Ankara, and they asked me to work with a Turkish company that could only fold metal. So I said, okay, let's go and let's make the whole thing only in folded metal. And then it became also an edition later on in France. What is interesting in this object is that I used it a lot, showing it in black and white and also in color. And one day I made an exhibition like that with two spaces, the very same spaces. One space was the same objects but in black and white, and the other one was only colors like that. And it was really interesting because quite often people tell me, you're playing with colors, so it's childish, it's something, it's a woman way of doing design. And when they saw the space only in black and white, then in this very case, for example, if it's black and white, you can see there is spaceships or whatever, kind of even tough objects. But when it comes in pink, then it's becoming a dress. And so the color changes so much objects that it's very interesting to use that to change also your, not your gender, but at least the feeling that you're giving to the object. This is I wanted to also to present that because it's a very, very constrained object, because there's a manufacturer in France that is called Manufacture de Sèvres, which is a very old and expensive manufacturer of ceramics. And it's impossible there to make an object that is not completely crazy expensive. So they came to me and said, okay, Constance, can you make for us a jewel? And I said, okay, yes, but I believe a lot in affordable design. That's really something that I believe in. And I said, okay, I'd like to try, but I want to make it very cheap. So very cheap for Sèvres, of course, is not very cheap for everyone. But still, my goal was to beat the cheapest piece of Sèvres, which is a flower made of ceramics, and it costs 350 euros. You have to imagine that usually pieces are like 6,000 euros because it's a very ancient ceramic company. And so I designed every single piece, which is as you can see, quite simple, but sometimes making it simple is more complicated than making it complicated. So I try to understand every gesture of the people making them, and to kind of be very, not to have them not spending too much time on that. So we worked very deeply with them, and in the end, of course, I lost because I was 20 euros more expensive than the cheapest price. But then I was kind of proud because it's not so easy to have a jewel made in Sèvres with that price. So it's a very simple piece that graphic designers will be able to use afterwards. So it's like a white page, a white paper, and people and graphic designers, they will be able to make whatever design they want on it. So this is my pattern on it, because it's the first one. But then in the end, it's something that I give to Sèvres so that they can use it later on with other people, with other artists. This is an object I just wanted to show because it's quite student-oriented. Sorry for other people, but to show an object that I made also just in model before making it, before thinking of it, because it's a sculpture that became a ceramic. So it was another way of doing an object. So the idea here was to have something that is not undefined. So when it's pink, you have the feeling it's a marshmallow, and when it's white, it's a pillow, and sometimes it looks like a cheese naan or a pizza, but it's something that is really undefined, and you, with your vision, you can imagine what it is and what you want it to be. So when it's brown, it's leather, and so that's really the way I wanted it. And this is one of my last objects. It was a competition for a church in Paris, in Saint-Eustache, in the very center of Paris. And in this case also, it was quite interesting, and the process is quite interesting because they made a competition and they asked me whether I want, because we had to work with a company, and they asked me whether I wanted to be with a design company or church furniture company. And I said, okay, I want to try the church furniture company, even if they had never worked with a designer. So I knew it would be tougher, but I knew that if I won, it could be really more interesting. So we began to work together, and I think it's the only time in my work that I really worked so close from the beginning till the end with the company, so that we really try to find the right ways to make things so that it can be guaranteed for 30 years. Every bench is guaranteed for 30 years. And in the beginning, the company didn't believe that we could succeed in making reversible and stackable bench. And in the end, it's reversible and stackable. But it was also in the very beginning, we had some meetings where they were saying, okay, what you're designing is cute, but are we going to succeed? And then very fast they understood that I really liked Technik and my team also, and then we found solutions. But it was not easy in the beginning, but then it was a fantastic collaboration, and we won the competition because we had the right price and the right production, and we knew that the prototype would work. So it's reversible and stackable. This is the end for objects. There are more, of course, in my website, but if you're interested, but I need to follow my time. So, scenography. What is scenography? Scenography is when you design a space for an exhibition space, for an exhibition, or for, I don't know, a ballet or whatever. Scenography is the moment when you're not only showing your stuff, but you're showing other people's stuff. And then you need to be present, but you need to be not so present at the same time. And so it's a moment when you have to understand also what you want to show. And in France, we have a very strong tradition of set design for exhibitions, because we try to enhance the ideas of the curator. In this very case, which is my last scenography in Paris, and Eva had the opportunity to visit it, so there are only 3 pictures, Eva, but maybe people can see more. It's a very special place inside La Philharmonie. In La Philharmonie de Paris is a place where you have concerts, etc. And they made a competition, and we were 15 people in the beginning in the competition. So it's a moment where you really have to make very long presentations, 2 hours with a team. Of course, my team. So we are in 10. So but also kind of larger team with a graphic designer, light designer, acoustic designer, multimedia designer. I'm forgetting someone. And so it's a very big team, and you have to build a very big project and to fight a lot when you're presenting. And we were very lucky to win, and I was so happy because it's the only moment in my life where I could make at the same time the place but also the content. Because here you have a place, of course we made 1,400 square meters, but then we designed every object inside, every single installation. And you know, sometimes when you're trying to design an iron machine or something, whatever, I don't know, a mouse or anything, you know what you're going to design. You're just like making a new shape and trying to do something different. But in this case, not one of the objects was clear from the beginning. So we had to imagine what it could be without having any kind of previous idea, any prejudice. So this first image is the main place, in fact, the main space of the whole exhibition. And the idea here was to have and it was really the strong orientation that made us win, because I decided not to make a kind of path that you have to follow, like an exhibition in general, you go from one piece to another, etc. And I decided to break the space and to make a space in the middle so that parents could wait for their children and be there, wait, listen to some music, and be able to see them everywhere. So the children could go and pick up any kind of installation and try things. So we designed this space in the middle, and we designed also other kind of installations like this one. So in this case, we tried to show what was the effect of the wind in the music. So in the end, inside we would call it the booty flute, because you have to sit on it and it changes the sound. But of course it has a more poetic name, more poetic official name, I would say. But the booty flute, I like it quite much. And so we were working, you know, you have to imagine that you are working with 10, 15 people in a conversation and say, okay, what are we going to do? Okay, we need to find a way to show the wind and to show the effect of the wind into music. So how can we do for children that are between 4 and 11? It's easy to make. We need to show the technique, etc. And in the end, you make that, and it's kind of fun. So there's the child on the right that is trying to pump, and then the wind is going inside, and when you sit, or there are sometimes here walking on it, then it makes music, and you can see all the technique inside. Another object of the scenography is this one. It's not this one is a special installation, but it was complicated to make, but it wasn't complicated to think, except for the fact that an illustrator was invited in this case, so we had to prove him that everything was going to be okay. So it's a very big map that when you push a button, then you get the sound of one country, and you can go inside the big map, inside the big ball here, to get another kind of music. So it has to be outside, inside, prevent people from going close to it, but not how to say that? Sorry, not to forbid them to get inside. So it's all about suggesting the fact that it's fragile, so you cannot get there, but then you can. And so it's in between these moments where, because when you do this kind of installations, the risk is to have everything behind plexiglass, and if you don't want that, you have to find solutions. So if you want people to be close to things, but that they understand that they don't have to destroy everything, then you make some kind of installations that help you do that. And in this very case, of course, you have to imagine that children of 4 years old, they need to see what is on the top of the big ball here. So that's why we made it, kind of smaller and also not completely round, so that it's very easy to see everything. So it was a lot of tests, and also small tests, but also big tests, scale 1. So this object, for example, is 4 meters wide, and so we tried to find solutions so that it worked, and in the end it worked. So, but there are, of this kind, there are 30 objects inside the exhibition, so you can go and see them, you can go and visit, and it's playful also for parents. We have an installation of electronic music, rock music, etc. So it's fun everywhere. Exhibition design. So this one is my first exhibition design, because I don't know why they asked me to work on that mechanics of the underwear. So I had to show corsets and underwear that would change the shape of the body. So it's called la mécanique des dessous. And I decided to make a very sober exhibition with just working on the stockmans here, so that you can see only the underwear. But also I insisted on showing the real mechanics. So each time it was possible, I made a kind of mechanical object that would move during the exhibition, so that you can see really how it worked. Because we have the feeling, and we don't know how it works today, but in fact, women of that time, they could take everything, and it was very easy to move, and it was really mechanical objects. So this one is one example only, but it was just to show that, and you can see that the body was white in this case, because it wasn't a real one, and we really made a kind of automat that could move, and that showed the models. This is about ballet design, so it's dance. So it was the first time for me to do that. This very one was with Angelin Prel-Jocage, who is a kind of very well-known dancer and choreographer in France. So I just got my diploma 1 year before, and he read an article on me saying Constance Guisset, the equilibrist or the funambule, I don't know. And he said, okay, maybe I go and see her website. He went to see my website, and he thought, okay, maybe I can write her an email. So I received an email from a superstar saying, okay, my name is Angelin Prel-Jocage, and I'm a choreographer, so maybe if you want, we can meet and talk about my next ballet. And I thought, okay, is that the real one? It's incredible. So we met, and I remember it very clearly because I just had my third child at that moment, and she was only 3 weeks. And we met, and he said, okay, it's the first show is in 4 months. So I thought, okay, it's gonna be tough. So do you want to work with me? And I said yes. He said, okay, present me stuff. And I remember very clearly that moment when I presented him. It was really shit, to be honest. And so every week I was going down in his place in the south with very big pieces of paper here, paper that you can see here. And I was trying to install that, and it was really huge. And at the same time, I was working on a USB key. So I was working on the millimeter, and here it was kind of, you have to work on 20 meters wide installation. So it was a bit complicated for me also to imagine how I could proceed in that. And I had the feeling that if I failed, nobody would see because it's not designed, so nobody would see. Then when the show was on, I understood that it was completely foolish from me, that I was completely irrational, which I believe is true. And because I'm not that scared in general, but I just went into it. And later on I asked him, but why did you trust me on that? Because it was really shit what I was proposing you. And he said, we made sports. I made sport when I was younger. You were a very sportive person. And I felt that we could go, get along very well on that. So I thought you were the right person. And I really still cannot believe it today. But then The idea here was to work on a white page because he was dancing alone, so, and it was even tougher for him because he was 54, which sounds not so old today for me, but at that time it sounded old to me. And he was 54 and he was dancing alone. Usually he makes ballet with lots of dancers, and it was on a text for Jean Genet, who is a French writer. It's about creation, and Jean Genet talks about creation and the difficulty to be alone on a rope, just like a writer is alone in front of his white page. So I thought, okay, let's make a white page for that. And as I was a beginner, I said, okay, it's fantastic what you have here. So I wanted to work with those installations that are natural installations, of course, for ballet. But I knew nothing about nothing, so I was telling him, okay, when you're on the field, he said, no, it's not a field, Constance, it's a scene. And it's those moments where I didn't know, but it was fun because I was playing a lot of handball at that time, so for me everything was a field, it was a battlefield, I don't know. And it was really interesting also to learn light at that moment, because in the very beginning he was asking me, what do you think of the light? Is it too cold or too hot? I was saying, what is he talking about? Because I was just a beginner, and I learned to see with his eyes, and I learned to see, and learning to see is really what we all need to do. And when I became a designer, I understood that it was the point, in fact, learning to see. How do we see things? What do I see when I look at architecture, any kind of installation? And this is really what we need to train when we are designer. Every single object, you have to think of how was it made, how can I make it better, which is the only question that counts. And so I learned a lot of things with him. And later on, he asked me to work on bigger ballets. So this one is one of the 5 ballets that I made with him. So we worked at La Scala in Milan, in many places. And this one was really huge also. And in this case, the idea was to design like prisons, but they were in stripes that dancers could change, just to show that the prison was extensible, like in the Mille et Une Nuits, you know, this count where every night someone, Scheherazade, is telling stories not to be killed. So it's like the prison was, you know, extended. And so I made several ballets, and today I still make ballets. So I make ballets, and I do set designs also for singers, for I don't know, dancers, for also music, electronic music, or it depends on the people that ask me. And quite often those projects are not so well paid, so it's about really passion and interest, and the moment when you're completely thrilled because the show is beginning, and it's something that you cannot feel when you make an object. Even if you're under stress when the object is released, there's nothing to be compared with the moment when everything can happen. And you're at risk all the time. So I have already the feeling to be at risk every day in my life, because I'm trying to do things that are really from me, and I believe in what I'm doing. So I do a lot of competitions. I'm at risk every day, but with what we call a living spectacle. So with shows, it's completely different. It's because you cannot do anything, and there are people on the scene, and they are dancing, they are singing, and everything can be, you know, can change. And it's really something, the feeling is very different. One of the last set design that I did for him is very different. I like to show that because it's only in video. So it's a moment when Angelin came to tell me about this project, and I thought, okay, hair is important in that project. So I began to film some hair in water and to transform those films into black and white films and to project them onto installation, onto a very light fabric. So we have the feeling it's like hologram, but it's really, of course it's fake, it's about illusion. And until the end, I didn't know whether it could be projected because you cannot test that before the show. So only 10 days before the show, I knew that it was going to work. And everybody was telling me, you know, it's not sure that the decor will work because last time we tried with video, it didn't work out. So it's just like, oh my God. So maybe in 10 days I have nothing. And it's so huge because it's 14 meters wide or 20 that there's nothing you can do at last minute. Everything has to be prepared in before. So the moment we tried, everybody just like kept quiet. And we were stunned, and I thought, okay, that it's one. But really, until the end, I was not sure that it would work. And I think that taking risks like that led me to different kind of media also, because as you can see in a set design, I worked with paper, I worked with strong materials, but I worked also with video, and I had no prejudice about the material that I would use, and that's what I like also in taking a lot of risks to make a project. Then let's talk about installations. So this is what I like to do a lot, is in situ installations. So people call me and say, okay, do you want to do a piece for that very space? So in this case, they asked me to do a piece for that space with all the portraits everywhere in oval here. And I made a turning mirror that could reflect the public when the portraits were about all the very well-known people of the region. So I thought it would be interesting for the public to have the feeling that they could be those very important people later on. So it's like empowering the public. And another big installation is the moment when I'm a bit crazy also, is when I'm invited to work in a very big space like that, and the people ask me to get inspired by what I see outside, and so I took a small detail and I made it very, very big. So it became a bench here where people could sit, and it was a big installation in Milan. Or an installation like that in Palais de Tokyo. Also here I like, I cannot say that I like big objects, I just like objects that are at the right size in the right place. So when I was asked to design seats for this place, Palais de Tokyo Museum in Paris, I thought, okay, if I make a small thing, nobody will see it and it's nonsense. So let's make very big vessels, and it's kind of clever objects because they can be detached, and so you can roll them and change place. But then at the same time, it's very huge and very light at the same time. So it was a cool moment too. Then I work, sorry, I'm going fast. I'm not going so fast, but anyway, on interior design. And so this is because I'm very lucky to have a company that believe in my work, and people that were capable to understand what this kind of crazy installations could become in interior design. And so this for Van Cleef & Arpels, you know, the jewelry design, so it's luxury brand. And they asked me for a very small project in the beginning, and then the bigger one, and then the bigger one, and now I'm designing all the offices, which is very, very demanding in terms of organization. But to be honest, I really like when projects are very difficult in the beginning, because I have the feeling that I solve problems, and in this case the space was difficult because it was very low ceiling here and difficult to organize, etc. So of course they're not dancing inside, it's just a photo, but so it's a space where I had the opportunity to invite artists also. So there's an installation of Marc Couturier, famous French artist here. You can see he drew on the sides but not in the middle, and it's the space where we have the video projection when they are having meetings. So we try to integrate completely pieces of art into architecture and to adapt to each other. And also for this space we made also big installations like that with other artists. So it's a very big library, very high, and we worked with 3 other artists on the content, of course, on the choice of the books, but also on the objects that we made with the artist Marc Couturier. So we went to see a glass blower, and so all these small installations There are objects that we made together with fun, and it was. No, there is always a kind of joke behind, and it's like a cabinet curiosité, and so it's a dark space when the other one is clear, and so that's what now Van Cleef Arpels is asking me to design spaces that are a bit different, but at the same time you can see here that it's very useful, and people are using them all the time. So it's about feeling well in a space that is different, but also that you really can live in, which is not so easy because you have to find this kind of moment when it's nice and delicate enough so that you can live in, but also strong enough so that you have a good souvenir of it. This is a restaurant that I designed also in La Samaritaine in Paris. So it's about how to see outside and making very dark spaces in the rest of the space, or also fun and colors. This is interesting to see after the one before, because it's for Liu Fan, you know the artist Liu Fan. He has his own museum in Arles, in south of France, and so they asked me to work on this space because they had very big acoustic problems, and they asked me to make something very, simple and clear, and at the same time, because he's a very minimalist artist. So I used these spaces to put some fabric and acoustic panels, and I tried to solve the acoustic problems. It was my first concern. And then I made very simple installations everywhere, and in the end it's just like a balance that I try to make. Then I'm going through my last activity. Don't worry, it's soon finished. I'm going to talk about the process after. But it's illustration for children. So it's moment when I try to, it's freedom moments. When for example, this one, it's about algae, and one day someone showed me an algae book, and I thought, okay, that's fantastic. It's really a fantastic object, and I try to design on it so that just with few lines you can suggest something with the algae. So here you have only 2 dots, one thing and here, and it's your imagination as a child or as an adult that complete the drawing. The second book that I made is the story of a round that is lost in a square world, which I think our story, all of us. So of course it's raining lines, and it's difficult to be square all the time when we just want to be round, and so that's the story of this round. And another one is about fog. And it comes from a very simple idea. I was working with my children on their vocabulary lists, and there was one list with fog and smog in the same list, and my first child had to learn how to spell it, and I said, okay, we're not going to make the whole list, let's make a book. And so we made this book, of course not together, but we just began it together because she was quite small. And then I said, okay, let's make a book about smog and fog, and it came to that book. So this is a part for the people here that are students, because I was asked to talk about process, how to imagine an object. So it's, of course, there are so many ways to do it that it's just like suggestions of how it works. So I was talking about how to look at things. So observation, of course. It's about staring at people all the time. It's about wondering how they dress, why they use that, how they hold things, how things are made, who is the builder behind it, but what's happening. And I don't know how to say that, but it's difficult to explain, but sometimes I have to switch off my mind because it's too complicated to try to understand everything all the time. So, but now with time, I know that I can decide to put it on, and it's just like airplane mode or not. And I put it on, and then I'm able, when I have a project and when I am in a space that I have to analyze, to just like process everything. And sometimes you just like want to rest because you don't want to process your life all the time. But observation is really the thing, and I think when we are students, we have to train on that very, very deeply. Then it's about looking at things and trying to be nourished by everything. So you cannot work alone in your kitchen. You need to see many things, of course. You need to go to the museum all the time. You need to go to shows. You need to, I don't know, meet people, etc., and to read. So people often ask me where inspiration comes from. I'm, of course, unable to say exactly where it comes from. What I'm sure of is that it's just like a plant that you're trying to grow, but you don't know. So you put seeds and you put a lot of water and you water it a lot, but you don't know what kind of plant is going to grow because you're not planning it. You're just like trying to put many things together and work so that they grow. And this is a collage that I made for my exhibition some years ago, just to show that, of course, classic art, but also contemporary art, but also funny installations, feminism, I don't know, many ways of thinking, visiting artist places, etc. Everything was nourishing my interest, and I don't know, just to show that it was completely open. So this is a little glimpse in my world, but everybody has his own world, and it's just like nourishing this world to make things grow. Then it's about work a lot. And I don't believe that it's possible to design or to conceive without working like crazy. People that think that you can create from 9 in the morning to 6, I think they are wrong, because it's not possible. It's about engagement, it's about being sure of what we want. It's working and thinking, and it's also about making mistakes. It's an iterative process, so I make a lot of mistakes. I try, and then I see. Drawings, of course. So I'm not a very, very good drawer. I know that. This is my drawings. I'm not a bad drawer either, but I'm not, some people are absolutely excellent. That's not my case, but I'm quite good at doing things with my hands. This is the way I began when I was younger. I got a kind of, I had wooden machines when I was 11. So my grandfather was an inventor, so he offered me a space to work on wood, and I was only 11 when I still have some of the machines today. and I like that. In fact, I like Technik a lot. I really like that. And I'm sure also because I had a very generalist scholarship, so I was quite interested in mathematics and physics, and I'm pretty sure that mathematics is helped me a lot solving problems every day, because I have problems every day. There's not one thing that I'm designing that goes on well. There's always something in a space, in an object that doesn't work, too expensive, impossible to do, whatever, anything. And so you have to be ready, and you have to be ready to try to understand the hypothesis and to find solutions, and that's it. So models, of course, I was talking about that. Paper models. Now I'm not doing so much of wood, or just like sculptures or things, but not models. But I do a lot of paper models that I bring back to my studio. But I can do it only on holidays, because the rest of the time it's my team that is doing the models. Models again, and ergonomy, and I try to, even when we make space design, very often, even when I do scenography, set design, to be sure that it's the right height. And for example, you can try your tap water. I'm sure that if your tap is working well, you don't notice that you have a tap, because design is something that disappears when it works well. It appears only when it doesn't work. So the tap is not working, and then it's shit, and then you're upset, and you think, who is the designer that made that? And you're right. But when the designer really made a good job in the beginning, you don't notice it. For example, here this seat is really too high. I wanted to tell you, in fact, it's not the right height. You need to have a small, lower one. It's not because I'm small, it's just because there is no space, in fact. And this is the first thing that I noticed when I sat here. And I'm sure I would never have noticed this seat if it were at the right height. So ergonomy is really about feeling. It's about your body in a space, and something like that, for example. I think that I would have asked my team to make it in cardboard so that I'm sure that it's the right height for everyone. So we are trying that all the time. I mean, not like a big one like that, but just to be sure, taking the meter, checking everything was okay. So I stand up and I said, okay, this is my height. And then the taller guy in my studio, and I said, okay, can you see? You cannot see? Okay, let's try it like that, etc. So we are trying with our bodies. And this is very important when you design a space, because you don't know, in fact. Because we think we know, we work on the 3D, but then, in fact, we don't know. So, of course, this is 3D models out of the printing machine, because we have one also to check. For example, this is about mechanics. 3D, because, of course, I'm not doing only embroidery in my kitchen. We are doing some kind of really technical projects. Then the rendering, so how to speak with the client, and very often, so this is a really simple rendering, but when you make a competition, the real challenge is to wonder what will the people understand from what I'm showing. And this is very difficult because sometimes you want to do too much and people, they stop on the details. And if you go too far on the projects, they say, oh, it's fantastic, but I don't like red. But you know that red is nothing inside the project, but still, because you made it red and it was finished enough, people will stop at that. And when you try to find in the middle this kind of balance, where it's just like suggestion, so it's drawing, but it's more than drawing, so you're suggesting something, then at that moment it works. I'm saying it looks very simple, it seems very simple when I'm saying that, but to be honest, every day, every single project that I'm rendering, I wonder whether it's not too much or not enough, and I never know if I'm right. But I'm trying each time. And so that's why sometimes I'm showing other people, and today I had to render also far away a project for a very big competition, and I wrote a text in that very case, and I was wondering, do I have to say what I want to do? If I want to do it in stone and somebody doesn't like stone, they will be finished. So I have to say kind of general ideas so that I'm not stopped, but I have my chance. So it has to be concrete enough, but at the same time, like a dream, so that people trust you. But this is very complicated stuff. So rendering is very important. Then, of course, technique, you know. Technical development is also testing. It's also testing in the furniture places, in the warehouse, and then the last part is communication. So shooting your own objects. So I like to do photos. So now I'm doing the shooting. So I'm working now with a photographer, but in the beginning it was only me. And it's also a real pleasure because you understand also what you want to express in the object. And also website and etc. And today Mateusz asked me, isn't it too complicated to make all the administration stuff when you're a designer, because you want to design only? And it's true, and it's even more complicated now that I'm older and I have a bigger agency than when I began, because in fact you're taken by this moment, for example. When I'm with you, I'm trying to teach something or to transmit something, and of course it's 2 days of my work, of my children, but it's important also to communicate on my life and my work life, and because I really believe in transmission. And but also it's moments when you have to give interviews, you have to prepare files, you have to prepare competitions, you have to do all that, and then time for creation is shrinking a lot, and it's very important to keep that time and to sometimes to live for 3-4 days on your own to understand what you want to do on which project, for what, and that's what I try to do very often. And also I was describing the airplane mode, and I think it's really clear also when I'm doing that. For example, I'm trying to, it's a lot of concentration, but it's a kind of also of gymnastics. When you try to answer all the questions, it's all about design. And to answer all the questions and then get back to concentration again. And this is really something that you have to train every day, because if you don't do that, then you will be killed. And life will kill you, administration, communication, I don't know, emails, distraction, everything. And you need to find, of course, it's your own space. It's not Virginia Woolf, but almost, but it's also your own space inside. You don't have to be alone to feel alone. I mean, you have to be able to switch off. And this is something that is not easy, but sometimes my children tell me, Mom, you're not answering the question each time, because I'm stopped here and I'm dreaming and I'm thinking of something else, and I said, yes, sorry. Because I trained myself to stop, answering, etc. And sometimes in my everyday life, it's not so easy. So I say, we cannot stand that when you do it. Please answer the question. We are having a conversation, and I'm just like off the conversation. And this is something that we need to keep on doing if we want to keep that, this kind of gymnastic inside. Because unless people will eat our space, our mental space, and life will eat our mental space. So this is the last thing I wanted to say with that. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Sorry, I was longer than expected, but so if you have questions, I think I have a few mics here for you. Yeah, you have to press them.
Wow, this was wonderful. Okay, this works.
No, you're too kind, Matthias.
Hello. Okay, this works.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, this was such a fantastic presentation. So many great projects, beautiful projects, spaces that probably most of us would like to be in. And I love that you mentioned so well the process of creating it, from the scratch to the whole difficulties of being a designer. And I think that this is very important to students that are here. What I love in your creations and your approach, that you try to create things that are accessible, and I really appreciate it, and this is wonderful. I really liked something that you mentioned, that what you have to deal with engineers about creating something. Lately, I had a conversation with someone who also creates objects, but as an engineer, and I didn't know that he was an engineer. I asked him, oh, did you finish the School of Academie of Fine Arts Industrial Design? And he said, no, they cannot design objects because they always want to create something that's impossible. So my question is, could you tell more about, because I want to start the first question, sorry. Could you tell more about how do you work with engineers, what difficulties do you have, and how designers, other designers do that? Do you think you are better at this than other designers?
No, I wouldn't dare saying that. The point is, I was saying that it was sometimes difficult to work with engineers, but what is difficult is prejudice. Mm-hmm. It's the only thing that is difficult. It's the moment when I arrive, and as you can see, I'm very tall, I'm very strong, and I have a very loud voice. And the moment when I arrive and they have prejudice. Mm-hmm. When I don't have prejudice, because I don't care. I'm just trying to find solutions. But to be honest now, that I'm a bit older and I'm trained to that, so I know that I have to use words that are complicated so that they understand that I can speak their language. And so and sometimes for new people in my team, they say, did you notice that you were just like making some name dropping in technical terms? I said, yeah, now I'm doing it unconsciously, but that's the only way to be respected in the first 15 minutes. And then after that, to be honest, I would have loved to be an engineer. I love that. My first idea in terms of job was to become a surgeon, because it's manual and intellectual at the same time. And I love that. I love technique. I love surgery. I mean, I binge, The Good Doctor. I read a lot of books of surgery. I love that. I just like technique, and so now I don't know everything, of course, but I understand how it works. And what is important is to have a kind of general culture of how it works and trying to understand everything. I don't know, yesterday someone told me that he was going to get a surgery for something. I said, how are they doing it? Because it's the same way of treating problems. I mean, just like make a patch or you don't make a patch, or how it works. I mean, it's the same in surgery, in design, in everything. So trying to understand the world and how it's made, it's being already a little bit an engineer. It doesn't mean that you have all the knowledge, but you have to understand his way of thinking. And that's why making mathematics and physics was important for me, because then I know that I have this kind of way of thinking, and I'm always trying to find solutions. I'm kind of very enthusiastic, so I always think that there are solutions. I'm not someone that I don't like to give up, so I'm trying to find solutions. And this is also being able to talk with an engineer and not let the people, be over you, in fact. But being very smooth, because it's not interesting. It's not a fight. It's just like a collaboration. But they have to understand that. And they are wrong when they say we don't know how to design. They don't know how to design.
Thank you very much. I think it's the time for the questions from the audience. Yes, yeah.
Thank you very much for the most inspirational talk. I would like to ask a question concerning a specific part of the lecture, the stage design, which were fantastic. But I've noticed that they were pretty different, right? We had the figurative one, sort of, but the last one was, well, I hadn't seen the performance itself, but it was kind of abstract. So I would like to ask, how do you think, what is the main function of the stage design in the theater? Or what are your goals when you're designing for the theater?
I can see two questions in your question. So the first one is about abstraction and figuration, which is something very important, because it's like a balance, and sometimes that you feel that you're a little bit more figurative, and then you try to get more abstract, so that you're just suggestive. And I think that I'm always trying, like a funambule, to be on that rope and to be between abstraction and figuration, so that I suggest things, but I'm not telling them. And so that's why sometimes I'm more on one side or the other, but I'm trying always to be in the middle. When it comes to stage design, it depends also the person you're working with, because expectations are not the same. And it's like a team play. And sometimes I was working with Angelin and I was proposing things, and he was saying, no, I want people to see my choreography. If you move too fast, or if the rhythm is the same, if it's too strong, people will look at the stage design and not at the choreography. So we had this moment when we had to find a right balance between our works. Because I think it's also a total show, in fact, when you have the stage design and the choreography together, sometimes not at the same pace, sometimes at the same pace, sometimes one after the other. And that's about illusion, for example. If I'm talking to you but I'm doing that, maybe sometimes you can be looking at my hand, and then I can, I don't know, make a face or something. So it's about, taking the attention on one side, and then people can get out of the scene, for example. So there are many different moments. It's not one thing, and I think that's why also ballet helped me understanding how to make exhibition design, because it's all about rhythm. It's not one moment. It's the beginning, then you're following, and then you have emotions all the way long. So yeah, I think that's the point. It's understanding that it's inner lengths, but also with someone, and with moments and different goals on the way.
Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions?
like to? Do you have a designer or a company that you always dream of working with?
I don't know how to say that, to answer that, because of course there are moments in my life when I dreamt of working with companies, because I feel that I could really do something interesting there, and also because very often good companies, they make your work better, because we are weaker when we are alone, and when you're with a big company, a good company, not a big one, then you know that the project will be really, really better. And yeah, there are companies that I really dream to work with, but to be honest, I stopped dreaming about that kind of things, because somehow it's too painful. It's, you know, in my work, you see many things that went out, but there are so many things that failed, so many things. And there are so many moments when I learn that after 5 years of work, the collection will stop. Or that after a competition, when you were sure that it would be for you, something happened and it's not you. And you put all your energy in it. And you have to believe so much, so deep in that, that you bring everything from you. And so now I'm not, at the same time I'm trying to do my best and to be like, because I'm a real competitor, I really like that. I love competition, I made a lot of sports, and it's, yeah, I find it fun. I'm a bit irresponsible in a sense. I'm very enthusiastic, and that's it, that's the way I am. But I had so many disappointments every day. Every week maybe I have something that is very tough to swallow. But then, that's why now I'm not dreaming of anything. I'm just taking things when they arrive. I'm happy when I have projects. I'm sometimes fighting a lot to get projects. And very recently, and I've been fighting for 1.5 years to be sure to be inside the competition. Really something that I really dreamt of, and I knew it would come. And last week I heard that I was in the competition, but I cannot tell you because it's still off. But I've been doing so many things to be inside that competition, to be in the shortlist. And I don't know if I'm going to win because we are 8 people, but I'm sure inside myself that I will win. And if I don't win, it will be okay. It will be tough, but it will be okay.
Constance, I'm sure that now more people, not only me, will keep fingers for you.
I mean, that's a crazy project that I really want to do. It's not a 2 meters stuff, but it's very symbolic object, and yeah, I'm just like. And so if what I heard from last week is true, then I'm in. And I'm in front of very big designers, but I am not afraid.
Do you think that these 2 years of COVID experience changed many things in our relation, in our work, in your work as a designer? What are your observations? We are still talking and thinking, and thank you so much for delivering so much about the empathy, about the feeling, about the enthusiasm, about context, about the awareness of our minds and bodies. It's very important. And what is your reflection about the past 2 years?
I think two things. One is organization. This moment when I remember we were just like traveling for 1 day just for two hours of meeting, and this moment is finished. So now we are able to talk on Zoom and to comment a chair on Zoom. So at one moment I asked to receive the chair so that I can see it in real. But anyway, this changed a lot our way of working. But this is just about technique. What changed also is that now companies understand some things that we tried to make them understand for a long time. For example, upcycling. It was so difficult to ask companies, what do you get when you finish something? What can I use? And it was impossible for them to understand. And now you're talking about upcycling, say, yes, Yes, we are ready for that. And and as designers, we know how things are made, so we know that this is not easy to dismantle, and so it will be complicated to recycle. And so we know that, and when we make an object, we feel guilty about that, because we know that we have to find ways to make it easy to dismantle, easy to recycle, etc. But in the past, designers, they were sometimes very lonely when they were asking the companies for that. Because even today, sometimes some of the companies tell me, we don't care in the competition, because in the end, only the money will change the competition. And sometimes it's true, but you have to believe that it's possible. So this changed. And of course, I think we are all more radicalized in a sense, and we know where we are. And for me, it was really clear after the COVID, the place where I was. And I believe a lot in affordable design. I believe a lot in also visually accessible design, which is different from affordable design. Something that is in a real tension with a lot of creation, but anybody can understand. Because I don't want to have conversations with designers about, look, the thinness, it's only 1 millimeter less than the one before. And to be honest, I don't care. I mean, as a designer, I'm happy. I'm just like, it's, my own pleasure. But I don't care for the public. People don't care about that. But they care about what they see, if they are taken by the project, by the visual stuff. This is important, what you tell with your object. And the rest, the millimeter less, etc., it's only designed for designers. And is that really interesting? I'm not sure. It's interesting for some people, and I respect them, and it's interesting for me because it's just like my own challenges, but it's not the great public challenge. They don't care about that.
I have a question about the ecological approach to the design. What's your opinion about it? Maybe some limitations of the profits based on your experience. What do you think about it?
That's very obvious. In fact, in a sense, because we are completely. I think it's the same with many designers, but we are crazy about how we build things, how we make them, etc. And we need to be even better than we used to be, of course, but to understand what's the how many materials you use for one object, and how you assemble them, can you disassemble them, and also the economy of it. It goes together with the price sometimes. And so very often when I do, for example, one of my cheapest objects is a brooch that is made in France, very delicate, but it's only one material with one builder, etc. And it's an object that I designed to be a present for my friends, because I love to make presents to my friends and to my teams. I'm very feminist, and I think it's very important to give presents to your girlfriends. So I love that. So because I think that there's. It's not so easy, and I know where I'm going now saying that. It's not so easy. We're not so numerous women designers, because it's not so easy to have your own company. It's the same like people that build their own company, and there are less women than men. So we need to be very, very much together on that. And that's why also for me, thinking of gifts is important, because that way of giving something is important. But it's true that ecology is always inside. Every time I have to make a set design for exhibition, I ask what is the previous exhibition, can I see the plans, can I do something with them, how can I reuse that. For example, my own exhibition in Milan this year, I'm trying to reuse almost everything I'm putting in. So sometimes it's not possible. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes we take the decision, but we have to be conscious of that decision. I know that if I put a vinyl here, it would be impossible to take out. Not, but to recycle it or to reuse it. But very often, from the beginning, I made lots of scenography that I still have in my stock, because I always ask to get back the objects, So in my office, I think I can do 3 exhibitions. So sometimes for my no, but for my birthday, for example, I reuse some scenographies. But no, it's yeah, we have to be sure of that. But then I confess that sometimes there's no way for us to do that, and sometimes we try that we take the right decisions, but we don't know about the decisions because we think that this material is better, but in fact, how was it made? Just the material itself. So now when I'm working with Van Cleef or with interior design, I have expectations from them also, and we have to meet those expectations. And so we try to have the best label, you know, in terms of ecology. So I know that all the materials that I use have to be chosen. And the moment when I'm told, okay, this one has been refused by the company, I take it out from my material deck. I mean, it doesn't exist anymore. And I know that I'm not going to use it anymore. And so I'm trying to do my best, but I'm not the best, of course, because I'm not only doing only that. But for example, recently I made a project with upcycling. I proposed that to the company. I said, okay, what kind of fabric are you using? Can I get some of the fabric you're not using? And so I'm proposing that. But then when you do that, and in this case, we have to build the offer, because the final consumer, it's not easy for them to understand also that he will not be able to choose exactly the fabric he wants, because at one moment you depend on what has been used before, and this moment is on the final consumer. But then when I'm on that with the companies, I try to find solutions with them. I say, and what if we made sometimes some limited edition, and what if we had a range that we know, and we try to fight. And I say, okay, so maybe we will buy them anyway. And I say, no, we need to try. We need to make it real. In fact, it has no meaning if we don't try till the end to make it upcycled. But it's not easy, because it's not only about me. It's about the company I'm working with and how we can build that, and it's about the final consumer that wants to see exactly what he wants to get, what he will get. And in the end, he's the one choosing. It's not so easy, to be honest.
Okay, so what would be your advice to a young designer or person who would like to become a designer?
I think I gave already many advices, no? Usually I'm not a teacher, so I'm not giving so many advice in a presentation, but so I try to find everything. But so the only advice I can give someone who wants to be a designer is work. I'm sorry, it's not very fun, but it's not very fun, but it's true.
What to start with, like to go to school or to like get more interesting stuff, like going to exhibitions and like other shows, but also like what to start with, like what to work on, like certain projects, like.
In fact, there are only 24 hours in a day, or maybe someone discovered something that I haven't discovered. And as I did a school of management, I did what we call a prépa in France. That is a moment during 2 years where you keep on working all the time. And when you go to P, you just have your English vocabulary. And when you eat, you have your German vocabulary. And when you do whatever, you never stop working. And I think for me it was a real strong moment. And I have to confess, I'm not very fun. I love to work. And it's not a pain for me to do that. And in the 24 hours, you need to sleep. But the rest of the time, it's you. Designer it's your life, in fact. And in that, when you're a woman, or even now for younger generations, when you're a man, and I hope not only the woman will take care of the children, you have the children, of course, and you have to integrate that in your life, and it's not easy. I'm not telling you it's easy. I'm trying to do my best, and sometimes I'm failing. But I know that I have 24 hours. The only thing that I know that I'm forgetting about is I have less time to take a coffee. It's for sure. And when I was younger, when I was a student, I was never going at the coffee. I was just like, I don't know, reading, doing things, and having fun a lot. I did a lot of sports also, and I'm not fun, but I'm not very cool. I'm just like, I love to work, that's it, and this is the only way. I'm sorry, it's not very fun to say that, but being an artist is just like a statement. You want to be an artist, you're an artist. You're not playing the artist from 9 to 6. It doesn't work, in fact. So, I mean, I'm just like eating design, drinking design, pooping design, I don't know. I'm trying to do my best to work all the time, and sometimes I'm having the airplane mode because I do something else. But even when I do something else, I know that in the end, I'm still thinking of that. Because I know that, anything is design. So I'm sorry, it's not very fun, but work is maybe the best advice. Sorry, I just like completely destroyed the atmosphere.
We are very happy with what you are talking about. I would like to ask if there are more questions from you guys, or maybe someone wish to come and say something privately or anything like that, because we were so even we work a lot, I think. Sometimes we need to eat.
I love eating too.
And sometimes we can do it walking, but sometimes it is also good to sit and have a conversation with some friends and other people. So, are there more questions? If not, thank you so much for being here with Constance Guisset.
And please change the seat.
Will do.
No, but I mean, it's my job to say what it's not working.
We will advocate for that.